Hi everybody, today I wanted to look into a topic around EWM or Extended Warehouse Management and how a warehouse management solution embedded in your ERP system or connected directly to it will enable us to run better ERP processes. Now, when I talk about Extended Warehouse Management, I always try and explain to my customers that when we're dealing with an SAP to an SAP product, many of the interfaces, I don't really like to call them really interfaces, they're really just part of the process within the solution. Whereas when we talk about third-party solutions, obviously we always have to connect that to our SAP ERP backend. So for instance, if we're using competitor products that are out there, we have to generate a pick request, we have to generate a pick confirmation interface, we have to generate stock interfaces for changes not only to quantities but also to statuses as well. We have to generate things like stock taking requests or counts. We have to generate and then a reconciliation report, and the reconciliation report has to be written here in Z code. And we also have to obviously have that same thing happening in our third party area. And what this really means is we end up generating work for people, and they're usually a technical resource. And if you obviously are running multiple shifts, we have to have more people, and if we are running with holiday cover and things like that, obviously you end up with more and more technical people looking after this technical stack in between, which essentially is all those messages coming backwards and forwards. And you also need them to look at and check out the reconciliation reports and any changes in there. What we try and do instead with our SAP solution, of course, is we have SAP and which is our S4 system, and of course we have EWM as a part of that. So there are no real interfaces, if you will. Everything's working as a process inside this box together. If we have a decentralized EWM system, of course, that's slightly different in that the messaging is coming across through a decentralized system, but all the messages that are flowing and the processes that are flowing backwards and forwards are pre-connected, predetermined, and everything else. So there's no real work to do there. Now, there's a little bit of work, but it's not like setting up a whole interface from scratch. Now, why this is important is I wanted to try and explain not only about the whole interfacing thing and why using EWM is more advantageous than third-party solutions, but also some of the processes that our systems, when we're using them together, such as EWM and our S4 system, can really do together, which no other solutions can do for us. So let's talk about some of those processes that we have inside our core solution, such as Materials Replenishment Planning, or MRP. And of course, we've done a video on this. If anyone would like to look at it, there's another video on MRP on my channel. And things like Available to Promise Checking. Available to Promise Checking is really for sales and for other types of movements of your stock. Sales obviously being the primary one, because we are saying it's available to promise to our customer. Therefore, do we have enough available at that point in time to sell? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through a quick example where we have an inbound process occurring from a vehicle. So we have a vehicle coming, and the vehicle has an ASN on it, which has a pallet of goods with obviously a barcode on that. And what we're going to do inside the warehouse is we're going to unload that pallet and bring that pallet into the distribution center, warehouse, or whatever it is you want to call it. Now, what's going to happen here in our ERP system, which is obviously S4 in this case, what we're going to do is look at the plant, and the plant will have that stock sitting at what we call a storage location. And the storage location in this case is going to be called Received on Dock. So when I've completed this movement, we're going to have a quantity sitting on the dock, received on dock there. Now, while that's interesting, is we may want our MRP system or solution within the core here to consider that stock, because I want that 60 stock to be not reordered. I want to make sure that it's available and we've got it, but I don't want to reorder it because I know I've already got it. But we may not want to show it as being available for sale. The reason being, it hasn't been fully put away, maybe not checked. There may be some of the things that need to happen to it before we can actually sell it to our customers. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do a warehouse process after I've unloaded it of actually putting the stock away. And when I've put the stock away into one of our racks, so we're going to do an RF movement to move that into a rack location. Once that is completed, without the warehouse user needing to do anything or even actually being aware of what's going on, is that stock will move to available for sale. So of course now our ATP is looking at that location, therefore it knows it can now sell that stock safely, whereas before obviously it wasn't really available, even though MRP was considering that. So a little bit complex there, but let's concentrate on what we're going to do in the warehousing space. I'm going to do an unload of the pallet and then a secondary put away movement, and we'll see stock moving at an inventory layer. Okay, so let's get started. To start off with, let's have a look at the inventory that we've got here. So let me fire up a little inventory transaction I've pre-created with my material which I'm playing with today. And I can see that I've already actually got quite a bit of stock in the warehouse, and I've got 126 sitting actually on received on dock already, and I've also got quite a bit sitting and available for sale. But what we're going to see is those numbers actually changing. Okay, so first things first, I need to create the inbound delivery. Now if this was done via an ASN, obviously I wouldn't have to complete this step, but in this case I'm going to do it manually so that you can actually see it working. So here's my purchase order. I'm going to create the inbound delivery for that purchase order, and I'm going to call this vid demo 2 with no space because I recorded one earlier to test this. So let's now create a handling unit on that. So this is the pallet I'm creating for the pallet label. I just need to put in my packing material number there. That packing material could of course be anything from, it could be a check, it could be a loscom, it could be any type of packing material whatsoever. In this case, I'm just putting in there my own material. I'm going to say I've got one pallet license plate handling unit, whatever you want to call it. And that's all great. Now let's create the inbound delivery. And again, this stage would have happened through ASN, either via the Ariba network or EDI if we've got that set up, but I'm just doing it manually. So now I can see I've got my inbound delivery. Let's take a look at that. Here's my inbound delivery. I can see I've got a handling unit, of course, as I already created one. That was the purchase order. We know that. Has anything happened in the warehouse yet? Let's have a look at the warehouse tasks. So if I click on this, we should find there are currently no tasks available for this inbound delivery. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create those warehouse tasks now for the movements in the warehouse. So let's create those tasks, or task in this case. And there could be several, of course, putaways on a real inbound delivery. I'm just using one for the purpose of demonstration. So here I can now see I've got one putaway task for the unload of that vehicle. Happy days. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is, I missed a step. I need to get the handling unit number so I know what to unload when the vehicle arrives. So bear with me one moment. Let me just grab that number. Yeah. Okay, so this is the pallet number, if you will. I know it's not an SSCC number, but obviously in a live system that could be, or not, depending on how you run your process. Let me just make a note of that pallet number, license plate. All good. Okay, so now let's go and do the receipt of, or the unload of this vehicle. Now to do that, I'm going to use the RF emulator here. Obviously, I'm sure most people who work in warehouses have seen a radio frequency type device before. Obviously, the screen that we have here is emulated, so I don't have to try and show an RF device. But let's do an inbound process. So it's number 3, and I'm going to do an unload. So number 1, and I'm unloading by ASN, which is number 4. So this is the paperwork that's come with the vehicle, and it's vid demo 2. Okay, all right. So now it's saying go to the license plate or number and scan it for the first pallet you want to unload. So beep, there you go. I've scanned that now, and it's saying okay, please take that to the destination yard bin. Okay, let me do that, and I could either type that yard bin number in or scan it, depending on what's actually happening. and let me OK that. So I'm going to say, has that vehicle been fully unloaded? Yes, it has. OK, give me the next ASN, or I could go back to the menu. So let me go back to the menu here. And again, I've come back to the normal RF menu. So what's happened to our stock now that I've unloaded that truck? You'll see before it was sitting at 126. So let me just come out and refresh that screen here. And what we should find is, of course, that number has increased because we've receipted more stock, or unloaded it from the vehicle, that is. Okay, great. So it's gone up by 60, which is awesome. So now you'll notice that it's still sitting on the received in dock. The reason being, of course, I haven't yet put it away. So let's just have a quick recap on the whiteboard here as to where we've got. So we've unloaded the vehicle, and what's happened is the stock is currently sitting in received on dock, sitting here. Now, what I'm going to do next is the next stage, I'm going to put that stock away. And when I do that, we should find it does my inventory flip for me in the back end. So let's go do that. So again, using the radio frequency device here. Oh, actually, before I do that, just real quick, just really want to show you kind of what's happening in the back end on that inbound delivery. Remember, I created the task a moment ago, and it generated one warehouse task. Now, what's interesting about EWM is it will only generate tasks as it needs them. So you can see now, because I did the unload and the put away is part of the process flow within the system, it's automatically generated a new task for me to do. So before, I only had one task, which was unload. I completed that, and on the completion of that task, it generated a new one for the put away to happen. So just a little aside to that. So let's go back to the monitor here, and let's do the put away of that. So it's saying again, it's an inbound process, which is great. So let's do that inbound process. All good. And this time it's a put away by handling unit. I could put away multiple handling units at the same time, what we call clustered, so on and so forth. Let's do just a single handling unit, and I need to paste in there, not that code, but there's a reason I wrote this pallet number down. Let's get that. Okay, so I scan the pallet again, and the system will say, great, please go and take it to this storage type location. So let's grab that bin number, and then I can paste that bin number in. Of course, in a real life situation, I would have simply scanned the bin number because I would be in a warehouse, whereas at the moment I'm not. So I can have to paste that in there. Let's confirm that, and it says, great, I've put that away for you. Give me the next thing you want to put away. I haven't got anything to put away, so let's go back to the menu. Now, let's have a look at what's going on with our stock here. So, it was sitting at 186. Let's kill that and refresh it. And what we should find now is it's moved from receipted on dock storage location. So we can see that's gone back down to 126, and it's gone to available for sale. So what's actually happened there, without doing anything in the warehouse in terms of an inventory movement, what it's done by me simply confirming the put away of that item, the stock has moved into a different storage location, which is considered for available to promise for sales, and now I can actually sell that stock. So just a quick demonstration there showing you some EWM transactions and using the RF to do that. But really, the really important part here was showing how a warehouse movement, simply using the RF to scan a pallet around the warehouse, can have an influence on our other ERP processes, such as materials replenishment planning and available to promise checking for sales. I hope you enjoyed that. Please feel free to leave some feedback or subscribe to my channel. I appreciate your support. Thank you very much. Bye.